they said, your gun laws are garbage and unconstitutional. And she said, oh, those gun laws? Let's see how bad these are. Like you thought those were unconstitutional. How about more unconstitutional gun laws?
And she did 10 more. 10. I'm not joking. She said, oh, those are bad? Take 10 more. That's what she did.
No, this is my point. Correct. This is my point. She can do whatever the hell she wants. And anytime she says, I can't do it, it's a lie. It's garbage. Don't believe her.
Well, guys, we're talking about the same thing because all this comes out of the same thing. Because no one in the news media has completely failed in its job. Social media has failed in its job. We're doing this, and this is why alternative media is so important, and why we're being so suppressed, each and every one of us, and why we're being demonized on a regular basis. Because we're saying, and what's the consequence? I mean, I hate the democratic progressive ideology on immigration. I hate the gun law, the gun ban ideology. I hate, but I will have that conversation, and I am more than willing to have that debate and to go through the consequences of it, and maybe make a compromise here and there. Maybe depends on the discussion, but at least I'm willing to have it, and we can have that debate. We can go through the good, the bad, and try and figure out what's at least maybe a middle ground. They're not doing that. They're saying, feel this. And we're programming our kids. This is exactly what the 1930s Hitler Youth were told to do. You obey. You do this. You feel this way about those who are in charge, those who are your betters, telling you this is the answer. You obey. You do not question it. You do not think about it. You just do. And that's the danger we are in, which is why I am so terrified about our freedoms.
Let's go. Go ahead, Matt. Go.
I just want to say, I mean, I agree with what you just said there. I mean, that's huge. We know, like having a discussion, asking questions, we identified as a solution. And I just want, although I will point out, like, we are also like arguing, like they're crazy, like they're the crazy. I think we even fell into, you just mentioned, like, you compared them to Hitler, like ourselves, like Hitler Youth. Okay.
A program of learning.
Okay, that's good. I'm like curious, like, what are the solutions to this? So we've identified the problems of the media, the screens, the lowering focus. How do we fix it?
I think it's the schools. I was going to go to the schools, but go ahead, Craig. I'm sorry.
We have a representative form of government. That's the issue. We literally farm that out. We said, we don't have time to think about this stuff. We farm it out to the representatives. They can be captured by whatever the hell they're captured by. And then once they get ingrained, they're in there like ticks, and they write laws so that they can stay there, and you can't get them out. And the only way to
one of the reasons why I like the idea of having ballot initiatives. Ballot initiatives are not perfect. They will be bad ones. There'll be mistakes. There absolutely will be bad ones, and people do dumb things. But we already have dumb laws. So dumb laws happen also. So it's fine. My issue is, but I think, to your point, Craig, if we had more of a direct democracy, right? It's not the perfect answer, but it's a better answer than we have right now. Because at least if we had ballot initiatives, it's a form of direct democracy, and now people have to start thinking about what they're going to vote on. They have to start thinking about it. I think more people will think and will be able to go against some of the laws that we already have on the books. We can get rid of some of them by direct ballot initiatives. I think it's helpful. Mike's head's right to say no.
Mike's triggered. He's like, nah, Larry, you're wrong.
I triggered him.
But, well, you did. And you love doing that, Larry. But I think we can simplify it down to one word, actually, as the solution. And that one word is accountability. Now, that takes in part several aspects, but the two biggest aspects, I think, are one, yes, education, and also election. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. But more importantly, we need to hold each other, ourselves, accountable first, which means we then teach our kids to be accountable. And that means we then transfer that into our election. We have to say, I am accountable. I'm not a category. I'm not beholden to whatever some political elitist thinks or some ideology. I am accountable to myself. And yes, my accountability allows for generosity. My accountability allows for compromise or conversation and discussion and debate. And yes, and ballot initiatives are part of that accountability. You have to know the issue. You have to be able to go out and vote on the issue. You have to debate the issue. So I agree, but that comes back to accountability. I have to know. I have to be active. I have to think, and I have to act, independent of anything else. Everything starts with accountability.
But you can teach that in this, and we need to teach that in schools, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and we don't. Yeah. The people who are failing are actually the parents, right? A lot of people who are older. Yes, Michael. People who are older, like the Gen Xers and the Boomers, like these Gen Zs don't know nothing. Well, because you didn't teach them shit. That's why. It was your job to teach them stuff. You didn't teach it. You were a bad parent, and now you're mad because they were raised poorly. Well, you raised them. Well. Why are you mad at them? You raised them. I don't know. Am I wrong? It
wasn't their job to raise them, Larry. That's why we pay taxes, so the schools can teach them.
Thank you. Yes, and that's my point. The whole point is the parents have walked away, and they think it's the government's job to educate our kids. What's that old saying? If you send your kids to be educated by a Roman, why would you be shocked if they support the Romans or whatever it is? That old thing from like back in the day. Yeah.
But this is the long-term consequence of not being accountable, of being a category and not an individual. And again, this goes back even further than 2008, but we started it really being materialized, focused in a tangible way in front of us when we started going into let's transform America. Then came in 2015 the BLM movement, and we saw the rise of Antifa, and then we saw the rise of the autonomous zones. And we're not calling out any of these things. And instead, we're told to blindly affirm, which has now led us to the point where we're talking about when we have the trans issue, we're talking, and I don't mean trans people, I mean the trans politics, the political movement, which says blindly affirm. And when you blindly affirm, that doesn't stop at trans. It goes to everything in your life. Blindly affirm the jab. Blindly affirm going to war and going into the Ukraine. Blindly affirm leaving 30,000 Americans in Afghanistan, Ukraine, and Sudan, 10,000 people per year. This is the third year in a row we have abandoned Americans and forgot they exist. This is what happens with blind affirmation, which is the direct consequence of not being accountable for us first, and therefore from that, schools, our children, our government. That's why I say we have to be accountable. And a lot of people go, well, Mike, that's just very conservative. That's not a bad thing.
Well,
I wouldn't say it's conservative at all. Accountability, to label something like accountability with a political ideology is silly. Accountability. I am not, I guess, because
oh yeah, well, just going off of Michael's great, blind affirmation rant, and just to connect it to how we started, this is like, and it all starts with we train kids to explain go along with this blind affirmation in a school essay and get a 0, or else they get a 0 on it. So I wrote an essay about my final essay. It was like I was trying to argue, like, look, here's some good capitalists. Here's some positive things that have happened from capitalism.
How dare you, man?
I know, and how do you think I was great? How do you think I was graded? Well, anyway,
I did not do well.
I did not get a good grade.